All right, we are at Roman numeral 3, okay, beginning with letter A, okay? Roman numeral 3, beginning with letter A. Okay, well, Spanish exploration. All right, well, what happens as the Spanish come out of their Reconquista? They regain Catholic control of Spain. The Spanish are controlling their own country, so to speak. Okay, the Spanish turn around, letter A. The Spanish turn around and they notice that Portugal is getting a lot of attention from the other European countries, and they do not like this. Okay, the Spanish were used to ruling, not ruling, but sort of seeming more important than Portugal. Okay, Portugal was kind of Spain's dog to kick around, if you will. Okay, now all of a sudden, it's not Spain that's getting the attention, it's Portugal that's getting all the attention because their explorations, their discovery of this shortcut, so to speak, not like a linear shortcut because it's a lot more miles, but this more convenient, if you will, route to India. And the Spanish are not happy with this. They do not like it at all. And they begin, Ferdinand and Isabella, as well as all the Spanish people, begin looking for a way to outdo Portugal. They've got to figure out a way to look stronger and more powerful once again than Portugal does. Okay? Now we're at letter B under Roman numeral 3. Christopher Columbus. As I said kind of in the course introduction, I believe that Christopher Columbus is the most overrated person in history. Matter of opinion, so I'll leave it at that. But Christopher Columbus all of a sudden comes along to meet Ferdinand and Isabella when they're in this situation of trying to figure out some way to outdo Portugal. Christopher Columbus shows up, he's a sailor, and he says, "Hey guys, I have a plan, and I was wondering if maybe you'd help me make this plan become a reality." Letter C, experienced sea captain. When Columbus arrived at the palace of the King and Queen of Spain, there in Madrid, Spain, Christopher Columbus was a well-established sea captain, especially sailing on the Mediterranean Sea. People knew that Christopher Columbus was a sailor, and they knew that he was a good one. Okay? All right, letter D. What Christopher Columbus offered Ferdinand and Isabella was a way to reach East Asia. Now, let's once again look at that map on page 408. You see Spain there. He is telling Ferdinand and Isabella that he has a way to get to East Asia, which is China. Okay? You see the islands of Japan. He says he knows a way to get there, a better way than the Portuguese. Now, getting to China and Japan has as much value as getting to India does, because once again, these spices are available in these regions. Okay? Columbus says, I know how we can get there. We can get there quicker than the Portuguese. We can get there more efficiently than the Portuguese. And obviously, as you might guess, Ferdinand and Isabella were interested. They wanted to hear more from Columbus because this was going to be their way to outdo Portugal, perhaps. Okay? So, here's what Columbus said. He says that he's figured it, he's estimated that from Spain to the East Indies, or East Asia, the islands off the coast of East Asia, he said that it was about 3,000 miles. In reality, it was about 12,000 miles. Okay? He said that he could get there and back before the Portuguese, and he said there is nothing in the way of a straight shot from Spain to East Asia. Well, he was obviously very wrong about that, because if you were to sail west, if you were to get in a boat, just imagine yourself in a boat on that map, sailing west, that's to the left, sailing west from Spain. Before you could ever get around to East Asia, you would first come to North and South America. He didn't figure for North and South America. He's thinking of East Asia. And he said that it was a straight shot there. He said it was about 3,000 miles. He said he can make it in no time. Okay. Now, Ferdinand and Isabella, they're interested. Christopher Columbus has been all over Europe before this. Letter E, searching for a sponsorship. He's looking for a European country, because at the time the European countries were the ones that they were the only ones that the Europeans really knew much about. Okay, so the European countries were kicking Christopher Columbus around as he's coming up with this idea. He's going to the kings and queens of all these different countries saying, "Hey, I got this great idea. We can sail to the west, into the Atlantic Ocean, west from Spain. We'll be in East Asia in no time. We'll outdo the Portuguese." Okay, the people in France, the king and queen of France, they rejected the idea. Columbus actually is from one of the smaller kingdoms that became the big country of Italy today. You know, Italy as the boot, right? Okay, so Columbus was from that, you know, in general, place called Italy. Specifically, he lived in a little tiny country called Genoa in northern Italy. The people in Genoa didn't want any part of his plan. Nobody wanted any part of his plan until he comes to the Spanish. Now, Ferdinand and Isabella there in Spain, they kind of have a unique problem because they have to deal with Portugal. They're willing to maybe take a risk on something that maybe the other Europeans are not willing to take a risk on. So, what do Isabella and Ferdinand do? Well, they say, okay, we'll do it. We'll pay for your trip, Chris. We'll give you some ships. We'll give you what you need to make this voyage of discovery to East Asia. Now remember, we remember Christopher Columbus as the guy who discovered America. But pause just a minute and think about what I've just talked about. Was that his goal, to discover America? Absolutely not. He was not out looking to discover a new land. He was looking for a short route to East Asia so that the Spanish can outdo the Portuguese, so that the Spanish can make money and kind of exhibit a little political power by beating the Portuguese at their own game. We always remember Christopher Columbus as this great hero who discovered America. Well, he didn't really discover it because there were already millions of American Indians there. By the way, the name Indian, Christopher Columbus gave him to him. You know why? Because he thought that he was in the Indies, or the islands off the coast of East Asia, so he called them Indians. They're Americans, you know. Anyway, Ferdinand and Isabella finally say, I'm at letter F, finally say, okay, Christopher Columbus, we'll do it. We'll pay for your voyage, we'll sponsor it, and you go have at it and go see what you can discover. And anything that you discover, you claim for Spain, okay? All right, so so Columbus set sail. He's gone. By the way, of course, everybody probably remembers the name of the three ships that he sailed: the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Really, why is that historically significant? It's not. It's trivia, okay? But the important thing is that he set sail with this crew and these ships to find this shortcut to East Asia. He never does. He never made it to East Asia. He only made it to America, which is pretty significant, really, but not to him. You know, he always rejected the idea that he actually came to a new place. He thought that he was in East Asia when he came and discovered, so to speak. It's not really discovered because, you know, like I said, you can't discover something that people already know about. When he came to the Americas, he's the first European to do so. All right, and letter G, this was perfect timing, obviously, for Ferdinand and Isabella because they're looking to outdo Portugal. They're looking for a way to beat Portugal at their own game, and Christopher Columbus offers them this way. Nobody else wanted to go for Christopher Columbus's plan, but they will. Okay. H, Reconquista. Another factor into Ferdinand and Isabella's acceptance of Columbus's plan was all the soldiers that were in Spain at the time. You know, the Reconquista had just been completed. That means Spain had been very involved in fighting this war to get rid of these Muslims. And now you have all these soldiers who don't have a war to fight, and sometimes that can be dangerous because soldiers, they tend to fight. That's just what they do. And without a war to fight, that could be a danger to the Spanish government because if they don't have anybody to fight, maybe sometimes they go and fight their own government. That's happened in the past. Okay, so they needed something to do with all these soldiers of the Reconquista, guys they called conquistadors. Okay, all right. Now I'll stop right there at Roman numeral 3, letter H, Reconquista, and I'll pick up there with video number 6.